Hello, people of YouTube.
Hi.
Am I supposed to tell them who I am already, or are they supposed to guess?
I think they'll struggle to guess.
It's going to be difficult because a part of my costume was blocked by the Chinese authorities. There is an international expo going on in our neighborhood where something like 500,000 people are going to attend the International Brand Expo.
Quite a lot of people going to be descending on the area.
I tried to order toy guns. So if that helps you with my costume, I tried to order toy guns, and I tried to order blood to put on my face, because I've already got the dog. I've got the dog. That's also a part of the costume.
So let's keep an eye on the chat, see if anyone gets it. What is American meant to be?
Now, I think everyone probably knows what Martin is meant to be.
Seems it right there in the chat.
There you go. Goku.
It's obvious.
That's a good one. All right.
It felt silly, though. I went out in it last week.
Why would you feel silly? It's Halloween.
I'm grown up.
That doesn't make any sense at all. You're supposed to go out and have fun. It's Halloween. All right.
What's fun?
Speaking of having fun, on today's special Halloween live stream, we do have a very special guest. That is Roger Jackson, a.k.a. the voice of the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah.
And he's going to be joining us a little bit later in the stream. Of course, first we've got project updates to get to.
We do. Let's get that out of the way.
There is art review. I think we want to talk a bit about Pirate Jam, which was the video you saw rolling just before we went live. And we also have a little bit to talk about on Out of the Woods. But first...
Actually, somebody got it. Your costume.
Oh, they did. That was fast. All right. Somebody called out that I was John Wick, huh?
Yeah.
Good.
They got it.
That's good. That was it. You got it. Whoever that was, the nerdiest girl and Taylor, brilliant.
What was it? Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I love our fans because they're so smart. They're just so sharp. But let's also not forget that today we have prizes. What are the prizes today, Font Lord or Goku?
Skulls. But not only skulls. Skulls plus Lulu patch.
Yeah,
a
so
skull and a Lulu patch.
We're going to give away prizes 4 times today. So if you win, you're going to get a Lulu patch and you're going to get a skull. It's pretty Halloween-y.
Yeah, it's great.
It's good stuff. I mean, I love the Lulu patch. They just showed up yesterday. The complete sets.
Should we lift one up?
And they're massive. These are a lot bigger than the previous set. If you have the previous set, you'll see they were this size. And if you flip them around, that is a proper art print. I mean, this is nice. You could hang that upside down on your wall. But the white rabbit print on the back, it's a proper A4 size. So you're getting a nice art print plus patches.
They look great. So
they look amazing.
Everyone, if you're not a patron,
become a patron.
Become a patron. Maybe we'll big that up a bit more later.
I think we should.
But yes, we should talk about Pirate Jam now, since that was the video that we just looked at.
Well, so Pirate Jam, for those of you who probably already know, is our annual game jam in Thailand. And what we do is we take a bunch of game developers from around the world and we get them out to Thailand. Now, you do have to pay for your own plane ticket, I will admit.
Ooh.
That is part of it. But once you get to Thailand, you meet up with us, and we go out on a fleet of sailboats, and we spend about a week sailing around to various tropical island locations, and we make games. We play games on the beach. What else do we do? We give away prizes. We also have prizes at Pirate Jam.
Drink rum.
We do drink quite a lot. So this is the promotional video that was made up the trailer, the content from last year. So there's our fleet of boats. Why is that all off center?
Yeah,
there's our flag.
A big video.
I don't know who that guy is. He looks like
orange man.
Orange man bad. Orange pirate bad. Anyway, so if you're interested, if you are a game developer, or if you just want to go on a scurvy sea adventure, head over to pirate-jam.com. And there is a kind of sign-up form here. I'm not exactly sure where, but somewhere. I think you click on the thing and then it takes you to a sign-up form.
Does it?
Anyway, so that's Pirate Jam. We are doing a lot of planning around that right now. So if you're interested, head over, check it out.
Okay. David Gans super chats us, but says nothing.
Woo!
Maybe,
scary.
Yeah. Very spooky.
Very scary.
So, David, if you had something to say and you accidentally clicked send, I'll keep an eye on the chat.
Yeah.
See if you got a question or a comment.
There you go. The other thing we should update on is Out of the Woods. We don't talk about this anywhere near enough, and so I do want to just really quickly mention, if you go over and you check out our updates on Kickstarter, you'll see we do at least one update per month, and the general theme of the updates is everything's done except the card game. The card game is still being manufactured, and so we're waiting on the factory to finish the manufacturing, and they've told us that's going to be done by November 15th. And then once they're done, we will receive the card games, and then we'll start mailing them out to Kickstarter backers and customers who pre-ordered over here on BackerKit. So if you're in that group of people, or you're just thinking about buying, but you want to wait till it's done, that is when it's done.
That is.
Yes.
You know, maybe we should talk about the patches a bit, because we saw somebody had a question about them, so
okay,
let's do that.
Let's do that. So,
yes, these patches, patch set 2, very awesome. Look at it go. Yes, this is going to be the next goal on our Patreon. For it's currently 3,222 patrons.
But we're going to fix that.
We're going to fix that. We're going to lower it to make it a bit more achievable. And if you do that, you can get them for the bargain price of $10, shipped anywhere in the world.
There you go.
Amazing. So what we normally suggest is right now you could join our Patreon for $1 easily. And then when we're about to hit the goal, I'm sure we'll be posting lots of news and info about that. Bump your pledge up to $10. You get the patches. And
there
after that, do what you want with the pledge. Raise it, lower it, cancel it. It don't matter.
Yeah, for those who are unaware, Patreon is the channel where we're allowing our fans to engage in crowd design. And of course, they are helping to support the production of all this fantastic art that you see behind us here. It turns out that making good art is not cheap. So we have a team of artists who are working, and because we're independent and we're relying on our fans and patrons to make this thing happen, we're using Patreon, and it's actually worked out very well.
It has.
You get access to a Discord server, you get access to all kinds of physical goodies, and you also get early access to all the artwork, all the story. We've even got a wiki up now where you can go and read the story as it's being developed, and then as you're reading, if you have an account here, you can also go and comment on the various stages and see how the game is shaping up.
Yeah, and you get access to our Discord if you're at $5 and above.
You do.
So
all kinds of good stuff to be had.
Gimme yourself had a question, but it's been answered. Patreon is however many months you want it to be for. It can be 1 month, it could be 100 months. But it is up to you to manually cancel it after you're finished. So yeah, it's for however long you want.
There you go. But anyway, just to reiterate, the current goal, when we reach that, will unlock these patches, the new patch set, for patrons at a discount price. So
$10.
Maybe think about going over and becoming a patron. It
Please
helps us.
do.
Yeah. So let's get into art review. Speaking of the things that your Patreon funding helps produce, this is the latest from Omri.
Really liking this.
So this is, he's got labeled as the Shadow Self. And again, if you're reading or following along as we're developing the story for the new game, you'll know that one of the central themes, and I guess you could also say one of the central characters, is Alice's shadow self. So in this image, we have Alice, obviously. This is 13-year-old Alice, and this is her in what we refer to as the denial dress. Now, again, if you're curious about how this story is developing, if you're curious about the various imagery, like the different images and the kind of things we're talking about here, you can go over to the Asylum Wiki. That is AmericanMcGee.com /Asylum Wiki. And you'll find there are many pages filled with tons of information on the general concept that we're working with, and also with the various themes. These would be the stages of PTSD, and also the alchemical, planetary, you name it, the psychological themes that are being built into this journey. So this is, for instance, the page for denial. That is the dress you see her wearing here. And she is also surrounded by tentacles.
Yes, I saw some comments about tentacles.
Lots of tentacles.
Tentacles. Yeah, somebody... I can't remember the comment. It's right here on my list, but it was basically like Shadow Alice shouldn't be so tentacly because it might get confused with the Red Queen or something to that effect.
Well, I think actually this is an interesting question in the sense that we have not completely answered. I can hear Martin nose whistling into the microphone constantly. It's very difficult. You need to put your headphones on so you can listen to your own the song of your nose.
I'm gonna take my wig off then for a little while.
I don't know if anyone else can hear Martin's nose whistling, but it's very distracting while I'm trying to talk about serious psychological.
Let me have a listen.
Yes, that's great, man. So, yeah, Trump's got white power dog whistles. Martin's got anime Goku nose whistles. That's great, man. Does that mean a bunch of ninjas are going to break into the studio? And
maybe.
All right. Anyway, so where were we? We're talking about tentacles. So we have not actually determined sort of the nature of the interaction between the Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts. And of course, this is where many people understand the origin of the tentacles to come from. Now, actually, I wrote quite a bit about this in the recent back and forth I've had with RJ on the nature of the queens and how the queens are presented in Alice's sort of approach to the obstacles in the new game. And what I'd said was that it might make sense that the Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts are in a bit of a conflict. Now, our fans, people have also talked about this in the back and forth we've had on Discord and in the comments over on Patreon. How does the battle between them then result in the state of the world as we see it in American McGee's Alice or in Alice Madness Returns? Now, we never really addressed that. We never talked about that in either one of those games. It's just like you stumbled upon what was essentially the remains of the end of the battle. It was clear that a battle had taken place, but it wasn't clear exactly how or why that had happened. And so what I wrote into the recent notes that I've had back and forth with RJ is that perhaps when Alice goes to meet up with the Queen of Hearts, who's residing in the domain that's basically defined by anger, it would be that the Queen of Hearts sends Alice out to confront the Red Queen. She wants to find and battle the Red Queen because she believes the Red Queen is responsible for the destruction of Wonderland, and that perhaps Alice is one of the spies sent by the Red Queen to see what's up with the Queen of Hearts. Anyway, I think that the tentacles would probably play a part in the battle between these two characters, and it also has something to do with Shadow Alice. And of course, because all this is going on inside of Alice's mind, inside of her psyche, there is some piece of Alice that is the queen, of the Red Queen, which is the Queen of Hearts, of, you know, all of these characters being sort of mixed and munged together.
That's a very thorough explanation.
But I like tentacles. How
we
about
know.
that?
We all know.
And actually, this came up on my Twitter yesterday because there was someone who wrote a very dumb critique of the most recent Tomb Raider game. This is over on Polygon or one of those other execrable so-called video game journalism websites.
What did they say? Because I've just finished it, so I'm knowledgeable now.
Well, they called the death animations death porn, and they made it out as if it was something that sexualized the death of a female character for the benefit of a sick and twisted, primarily male audience. And they said that this is outdated and this death porn needs to go away. We don't need this.
I can't even, it's not like I can even say I get what they mean, but they're wrong. I just literally do not see anything sexy in her death animations. Not once in like 20 plus hours of playing have I thought that.
This writer called out specifically the ponytail physics as they related to the dying sequences.
Right.
And labeled it as death porn or something along. Anyway, I tweeted out and I said, that sounds like a challenge to me. I'm pretty sure that a lot of our female gamers like a bit of blood and violence in their death animations, and why don't we make a bunch of that and find out? And of course the response from the fans was hugely positive, and especially from our female fans.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, because it sounds like that writer literally just is either just fishing for scandal or just doesn't know what they're talking about, because it's just not like that at all.
Well, this is also a topic that's come up recently in just relation to news and how the news is reported, and that is that in order for these websites to continue to garner clicks, they first need to establish a baseline. Games are sexist, but then they have to constantly escalate and ratchet up the messaging so that now they're not just sexist, now they're sexist +1, +5, +10. Oh, now they're actually just literal death and rape simulations for the benefit of a sick and twisted male audience. I mean, they have to constantly increase the outrage in order to continue to collect the clicks.
Well, they do. It's all about those clicks.
It's terrible. So this is a dysfunction of the way in which these businesses operate and how they generate. It's not about news. It's not about telling the truth or even being honest in a review. It's simply about generating outrage.
Pretty much.
Yeah, well. But I always find it funny, and I think someone in the comments here said that. It's Taylor Preston just said, if someone thinks it's sexy, it's because they are into death porn. So I think this is oftentimes the case where you see someone will sort of virtue signal, they'll intentionally misinterpret something as being racist or sexist or death porn. But the interesting thing is that until that person floats that idea, it doesn't exist. So the first person to think that Lara Croft was death porn was that writer. What does that say about that person's psyche?
Yeah, it says something, doesn't it?
Well, to me, it says a lot. And of course, they wrap this up with this whole narrative of, the games industry being bad and the people who design the games being bad, the people who animate the characters. And the reality is they know nothing about any of this stuff.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Speaking of our awesome female artists, this is the latest from Joey. Now, this is a very, very rough initial sketch that she's working on. You can see here Alice.
But there's no pa or ka or anything.
I think that comes later in her process. So. I don't think she starts off right out the door with pa and ka.
Yeah, we'll see. We've got z.
There is a bit of z in there. I think he's sleeping.
What's that say?
Chaos.
Oh, right.
I'm pretty sure it says chaos.
Well, it said chavs.
It might say chavs. Maybe chavs is another attack sound. Would you make that sound when doing kung fu on someone, Martin?
Well, no, but that's sort of like a slang term for young, troublesome youth.
Try it out. Just try to chav me.
Chav!
Yeah, it didn't really work. So this is the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Now, we did have a representation of this in the first Alice game, where you did actually, in fact, get up onto the tea table. Now, I remember that section being incredibly frustrating because there were these sugar cubes floating in the tea, and they had these sort of prehistoric physics properties on them, which led to lots of death and drowning.
Tom Resnick sends in a super chat. Thank you very much, Tom, saying, while Cheshire Cat's tattoos are visually striking and imply the pain involved, in your mind, did he emerge from the fog of madness fully marked, or might they appear during the events of Asylum?
That's an excellent question, Tom, and it's one we've semi-addressed. In fact, if you look down here, you see that is the Cheshire Kitten, that bit of art right there standing next to Alice. And we actually have presented fluffy early Cheshire Cat kitten images in our early pre-production, and we are thinking about the idea that those tattoos would have formed during the fire, that perhaps prior to the fire he didn't have the tattoos, and then post-fire they appear, or throughout Alice's journey in Asylum we see him transformed from the little kitten, fluffy and cute, into the thing that starts off the beginning of American McGee's Alice. Now, I really like that because it basically presents the Cheshire Cat as an analog gauge for Alice's progress through this game. We won't be able to see her aging. It's not like as she's journeying along this Wonderland arc, we're going to see her constantly getting older, and bigger. But we could see a character like the Cheshire Cat transform, and so he kind of echoes the journey that she's along.
It's a good idea. I like him. The idea of starting him out as fluffy Chesh and ending up as skinny Chesh.
Yeah, I like that idea too, and I think everybody really liked the fluffy Chesh presentation. He looked pretty cool.
They did.
Yeah. Somebody says there maybe he starts off striped, but the stripes merge into tattoos. Yeah, that's basically what we've been talking about doing. This is Joey's very early sketch. Now, I think it's interesting to look at a piece of art like this because, of course, many of you have seen Joey's finished art, and of course, a lot of that stuff is, it's absolutely stunning in the level of detail and, sort of the quality of it. If you go over to Patreon, you can see, for instance, like this was the piece of enemy art that she did recently.
I like that.
But I think it's worth noting for you potential or would-be or aspiring artists out there that every sort of finished piece of art starts off pretty rough.
That is pretty rough.
And it's the same thing that's going on with our story right now. We are working on the story for Alice Asylum, and this is what we have right now. We've got really sort of large stroke, chunky piece, early sketch of what the story is going to be. So there you go. So I'm interested to see how this turns out. I'm not even sure who... this is maybe the rabbit, I think she's saying. So we've got Hatter at one end of the table, and this is Rabbit at this end of the table.
I think so.
But yeah, lots of rabbits going around these days. Have you noticed that?
It does seem to be.
It's just a tremendous amount of rabbits. This is the plush. Now, this has not been updated. If you watched us last week, you know that we had this plush in hand last week, and we still have him here with us today. Now, there are four factories working on a new plush.
What?
Yeah, we went a bit bonkers. It costs a little bit of money each time. Obviously, you call up a factory and you say, make us a new model. But I kind of feel like the result of this plush, this was so kind of odd. We learned a lot on this. So we have actually gone back. You hold that up and give him a display while I search for some artwork. We did learn quite a bit, and so this is the next piece of art review. This is Omri's variation on Joey's update to the art we saw last time. The art that resulted in this plush that Font Lord has here. So that was the result of our original piece of concept art, and this is the updated version of the concept artwork. And what we're trying to do here is get the factory away from having him in that funny, stiff, frozen sitting pose.
That is quite weird, honestly. It needs to be floppy.
Well, we've talked about this before, though. It's an interesting cultural artifact in China, and we see this all over the place. and it's one where people would rather not ask for clarity on the production of something or on your order in general. They'll just go forward, and a lot of times you could end up, imagine if we just sent the drawing off and then the factory'd come back and made 3,000 of those. And they would have happily have done it. But what we have here is the updated version of the artwork.
It's looking great.
Yeah, so we're hoping, see, I'm worried about this. Unless we've been clear enough, this nose can come back as a piece of plastic again. But I'm hoping it's going to be stitched.
Hope so.
We do hope that this is wooden. This is a kind of a faux wood.
Did Matt know about these suggestions
before? For sure.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And so then we're also talking about making sure that these elements, legs, ears, arms, are floppy, not frozen like those are.
Yeah.
I suspect that we're going to see a few more prototypes, the physical prototypes, before we see sort of the end of this. I don't think that this next go around is going to be the last go around.
Shouldn't think so.
But you can see there's a kind of evolution of our thinking here in terms of what we're showing to the factory. There are attachment points illustrated here for the sake of the factory to understand the physical construction of the rabbit. And, you know, I made a joke on Instagram that based on these photos, it would not surprise me if the rabbit came back with the arms and legs detached.
Or just one arm and one leg.
Or just one arm and
attached
one
by
leg.
long red strings.
It would not surprise me at all. I mean, you saw the orange rabbit.
We all saw the orange rabbit.
I want the orange rabbit. I haven't been able to get them to send us the orange rabbit. But yeah, you know, I think what she's trying to do here is illustrate that, look, guys, this needs to move around. This needs to not be frozen. It needs to be a floppy, soft bunny rabbit. Now, there is a bit of a, we'll call them the stitching wars. Have you noticed that? So this is Joey's image. And this is Omri's image.
Right.
Now, he likes the idea of bigger, rougher, more visible stitching.
Sure.
She makes note down here. Ka, pa. Personally, it would have been funny if she'd put some fighting sound effects around this text. Ka, no. I'm not listening to you.
We know how Joey feels now.
We do know how she feels now. So that's the update on the rabbit.
It is.
It is almost.
Ask you to alter my microphone settings. I feel it's picking up too much noise.
Yeah, we are having microphone issues. I don't think it's gonna do anything today, Martin.
I don't know.
Mine is. So there it goes. Mine is decided to automatically adjust itself.
Yeah, but I think mine's too high.
I don't.
When you changed mine up to 50.
Well, yeah, it's why we can hear your nose.
Exactly. And
Your
I can
nose
hear the
whistles.
rustling of my clothes.
Nose whistling.
Get it
Martin.
down to, yeah, try there.
There you go. But
Let's
why
give that
is
a
it
go.
that yours sticks and mine doesn't?
I don't know.
I really don't understand this. It's very frustrating. Okay, so before we go to, because it is prize o'clock, so we're going to give away skulls, and then we're going to have Roger Jackson come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm put my wig on for prize
so
o'clock.
this is what we got. We have 4 prize o'clock. We're going to be giving away a Memento Mori palm skull. Very spooky. Very Halloween.
Isn't it? We've got
Indeed.
one right.
And we're going to be giving away a Lulu embroidered patch with the skull.
Yep.
There you go. So, in order for you to win this, you have to say in the chat, which costume is better, Martin's or American's? By the way, Nightbot might have a preference, so you got to be careful.
Let's see. Let's see what happens.
But anyway, spam up the chat, please, with your preference for either Martin Fontlord or American Stick Boy.
You have to think about that.
Well, because we've got all these names now. Now I'm also John Wick. I've got a pirate name. Do you know what my pirate name is?
Salty McShiver Timber. No.
That's pretty good. No. My friends at the last Pirate Jam nicknamed me Madcap McGee.
Yes, that was it.
Madcap McGee. I was really hoping for something with more gravitas. I felt that a captain, almost I think a kind of an admiral of a fleet,
Right.
ought to have perhaps a better, more imposing, might we say, a more imposing name.
Maybe you'll get a better one at the next Pirate Jam.
I hope so. But here we go. We are seeing the voting in the spam chat coming in.
Get my pen and paper.
And so we are going to ask Nightbot. We are going to ask Nightbot here who will win today's first Halloween. There we go. Midnight Simmer.
Midnight Simmer.
Congratulations, Midnight Simmer. The way this works is you need to email mysterious@americanmcgee.com, and you need to provide your mailing address, your phone number. Be sure to put your actual name, the fact that you've won the Skull and Lulu patch, and please do that all in a format where it's easy for me to interpret it, because if you don't...
And they say mine's better.
Okay, you lost now. It's over. You're done. You don't get to have a prize. You've hurt John Wick's feelings. Aww. You killed my dog.
Darn.
That's a really good movie.
I always skip the beginning.
It's hard to watch.
I don't like it. I just go straight to the morning after. It
is not an easy film in many respects, but I think that's one of the things, because he's a very dark, good guy character. So yeah, there you go. We are going to now open up life to Roger Jackson. Roger, are you there?
Here I am.
There he is.
Hello.
What did I just miss? Screaming, it sounded like.
You did miss some screaming.
What do you do?
Okay. How's it going, Roger?
Yes. Hello.
Where in the world are you, and what are you up to?
Very pleasantly with you, Mr. McGee.
Great. Well, we're really happy to have you here with us, and we know that the fans are all out there very anxious to hear your thoughts on our new Alice game, and also on the projects you're up to working on, and anything else you've got in mind for us today.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to the new Alice game. I'm hoping I'm on it.
I think it's a mutual.
Always a pleasure to work with you.
Well, it's you actually are one of the RJs involved with the Alice games, and the other one is our mutual good friend RJ Berg. And actually, he's the reason why we're all together.
2 RJs, no waiting.
Exactly, lots of RJ. How did you originally meet that RJ Berg?
I auditioned for a game he was doing, a Sherlock Holmes game. He wrote a very interesting scenario tree. I guess I ended up doing, I think, about 40 different voices or so on that game for him.
Wow.
And the writing, as is usual with Mr. Berg, was just marvelous.
Well, the second time that I worked with you was on Grimm, and I think you probably ended up doing an equal or greater number of voices for that project. We had 24 episodes, and per episode there were multiple characters, different fairy tale characters. So you probably did 50 plus voices for that.
Oh, I'm sure, probably quite a few more. I had the distinct honor of doing all the voices for that: men, women, dogs, cats, monsters, robots. That was a great amount of fun. That was a great thing to work on.
Well, it was good to have.
I wish it were
doing that because the premise of the game was that the main character Grimm was, of course, narrating and storytelling. So that essentially became like Roger Jackson storytelling all of the well-known fairy tales through of course, the persona and the voice of Grimm, which I always thought was kind of interesting because there was Grimm, and then there was this feeling of Grimm also being the one who was doing the voices, which you were doing. So there's a sort of like two. Did you have that in mind? Sort of a two-layer.
Not specifically, but I did have another little tribute or a nod from me personally. I sort of based Grimm's voice on John Hurt, who was the storyteller in what, for my money, was the Jim Henson Studios' greatest masterwork, the Storyteller series.
Yeah, I remember that very well.
He was the storyteller. Yeah, he and his dog, played by Brian Henson. So
I sort of took a bit of John Hurt and put that into Grimm, only much dirtier. That is to say, more scruffy and rough about the edges.
Well, he had a bit of a scoundrelly, piratey. He did have a scruffy feel to him as a character.
The marvelous moustache and beard to go with it.
So the first thing that we worked on, though, was, of course, for you and I working together, was the original Alice game. And when you came to that, I think it was a similar situation of RJ had written a number of, fantastic characters and dialogue. And you ended up doing at least, 6, maybe 7 voices for that game?
Well, I know there were 3 that I'm certain of. That was the Cheshire Cat, the Mad Hatter, and the Jabberwock.
But you also
I thought I might have done some others, but they may have been replaced by other actors.
I think it was your voice for the March Hare and the Dormouse. There was this sort of Dormy, this scene where they were being tortured by the Hatter in his laboratory, and I'm pretty sure that's you as well.
The years have fogged my mind,
Yeah.
Mr. McGee. I do apologize.
That is nearly 20 years ago. Can you believe it?
Reminds me of one of my favorite bits in the Genius program, Faulty Towers, when he turns and looks into space and goes, "What was that? Your life? Oh, that was quick. Do I get another? Nope. Sorry, mate. One to a customer."
That's it. It's over. We have a super chat waiting here from one of our fans saying, Truth Decay, send along Canadian $5. Thank you. Is that Ka5? Ka. And says that perhaps my costume makes me look like a shadow Kurt Cobain. Is that what you were going for? No. I was going for John Wick. But shadow Kurt Cobain is okay.
That's also good.
Now we have another one here from John Rebeldo.
Rebeldo. This one's for you, Roger. It says, you are one of my idols. Where do the Cheshire Cat and others from these games stand among your favorite roles? Do you have a favorite Cheshire Cat quote?
P.S. Watching screen.
Oh, no. Oh, but I certainly do enjoy saying Purrrfect. Purrrfect.
Well, we're going to have to get you back to do more Cheshire Cat. Now, I don't know if you heard earlier, we are talking about having the Cheshire Cat be the Cheshire Kitten, because the game in the narrative timeline is taking place when Alice has just gone through the disaster of the fire. She's only going to be 13 years old. So this would actually be 10 years or so before the events of American McGee's Alice. And so we have these drawings that got done. I don't know if you've seen those, but of a fluffy, cute, but still with a bit of an edge kitten Cheshire Cat. And
I've not seen those yet. I try to keep an eye out for your artworks as they come.
I'll see if I can pull one up here really quickly. But I'm kind of curious if you have thoughts on how would you present vocally a kitten version of a Cheshire Cat? Is that even possible?
Well, I suppose one simply makes them younger, doesn't one? Hello, Alice.
That sounds pretty good. I'm curious to see what our fans here say about that. We have seen some other super chats go by.
Yes, we've got one from Hesh Heppelwhite. Thank you for the super chat. Says, I want to give a shout out to Roger Jackson. Your talent is limitless, and the range you utilize throughout your voice acting career is equally so. So yeah, just a bit of some praise there for you.
You are perfidiously complimentary, sir. Thank you.
There you go, Hesh, just for you. And he also sends another super chat.
Thank you. A lot. I am glad to have been of service to your
Would be movies like Scream, is that right?
Oh, yes. Scream is in the line there, very prominently, especially at this time of year.
So I'm kind of curious, do you get flooded on the social media channels, on Facebook, on Twitter, with people? I mean, I don't know if they come to you, you know, are you sending the sort of vocal equivalent of an autograph?
Really? If you're speaking now, I'm not hearing you.
Uh-oh, that's not good. We did see the internet sort of fell down for a minute there. Let's see if you can hear us now.
I hear you.
All right.
Yay.
You're in the pipe 5x5, Captain.
There you go. One of my favorite movies, Aliens. Was that where
That was Aliens.
that quote came from? And then she got eaten by a xenomorph in the cockpit of her ship. That was sad. Grr. So, what are some of your other favorite projects that you've worked on, Roger? If you kind of go out and people recognize you voice-wise. I know the Cheshire Cat's a big one, but I mean, it seems like you've got such a massive repertoire.
People really do love the Cheshire Cat, and they didn't realize that I do.
The Hatter as well.
Right.
The Hatter. Mad. Mad? Yes, mad.
Of course, I really love doing Mojo Jojo for the Powerpuff Girls. He is a favorite of mine.
I do love Mojo
And I used to have a
Jojo.
fun time. There's a medication available in the United States called Mucinex. I was the original Mr. Mucus for the ads. 12 hours!
I would not want to shake hands with Mr. Mucus.
Mr. Mucus.
That would not.
Yeah, you
be-
might want to have a towel available.
Sounds like it. So we do get a lot of people, I think, writing to us, wanting to be involved with our projects on an artistic basis, or they want to be game designers. Everybody wants to be a game designer. But I was saying to Martin that probably maybe second to none, or maybe in the number 2 position in terms of the sheer bulk of people we have coming and saying, hey, I want to contribute to your projects, is from aspiring voice actors. And I'm just kind of curious if you have advice or recommendation to them for how to get noticed and maybe how to get good.
The same way you get to Carnegie Hall. Practice. I started off as a little shaver doing puppetry and eventually worked into theater as a professional actor. I think that's the best way you learn is training in live theater, because then you have the immediate audience reaction, and that teaches you. Theater is the way to go. And also, when I at a certain point was not able to do so much theater, I used to volunteer at a local elementary school here, and I'd go once a week and read stories to a 2nd grade class who were kind enough to let me join them. And kids are the best audience in the world. They're absolutely honest. If they like you, they let you know. And if you stink, they let you know that too.
So I think we've said this to people before when it comes to art, when it comes to their desire to sit down and make a game, is just do it. I think it's the simplest in terms of the advice, but I think it's also the hardest for people to follow through on. I don't know if you know this, but the feeling of procrastination, sometimes I think that's probably one of my better skills, because I'll find that when
someday I'm going to do something about this procrastination.
Exactly. I procrastinate my procrastination. Any advice for, sort of putting your nose to the grindstone for what's your practice routine like?
Well, I continually I eat stories. I try to take in stories. I watch films of all kinds, feature film, animation. I listen to recorded stories, books on tapes, recordings of stories. The last few days, I've been listening to some Vincent Price records, The Witch's Horn Book, and of ghost stories he did. That's one thing that kind of got me. Another early influence is I had a second grade teacher who introduced me to Edgar Allan Poe by way of a Basil Rathbone record. And especially if you want to do something like accents or dialects, you just have to practice all the time. Just keep annoying your family and friends, all the people around you.
So is this
like work it like a muscle?
Is this sort of coming out of you constantly? I mean, when you're in your kitchen and when you're driving the car, are you constantly? Because I've met artists and comedians. I had the pleasure of spending a day with Robin Williams at EA once, and he came up with one of the execs and wanted to see the facilities and play some games, and he never turned it off. He was constantly in the role of being Robin Williams, and it was a day where I laughed continually because he's just so constantly funny.
Yes, I don't think I have as much energy as he has.
I don't think many people do.
Yeah, but I'm continually listening to things. If I hear something, I try practicing it immediately. One of my wife's favorite stories is we were at a theater in London seeing a production, the first production of Charles III with Tim Pigott Smith as Charles, the newly crowned king after the present queen has died. And while we were waiting, there was a guy behind us who was sneezing, but he had a very peculiar sneeze or cough. And my wife said, "Did you hear that?" I said, "Yes." And I started quietly practicing it.
Really?
He was sneezing. He was sneezing like.
So does it feel to you like it's a bit of a compulsion to act, to vocalize when you hear something like that? Is it almost uncontrollable?
Something like that. I hear it and try to see how close I can get to it. It's kind of musical. I try to see how closely I can imitate it or set it down in my memory as something for another time, another place, and maybe practice on it. Sometimes I'll record something onto my phone's voice program app just to remind myself a little audio note, as it were.
So I think that would bring me to my next question, is sort of for somebody who is an aspiring voice actor, voice artist, how do you think that the ones that are kind of coming up in ranks are best able to get noticed? Do they have a website or a SoundCloud, or do they do themselves, record themselves and put it up on YouTube? I mean, have you seen sort of what the kids are doing these days to get noticed? Because we get this question all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen some YouTube videos, and I just know for myself, when I was interested in getting into it, I knew I didn't know what to do, and I wasn't sure how to go about doing it. So I was fortunate enough to be around when a company here in the Bay Area opened up a school teaching vocal skills, the various aspects of voice acting. And I just signed up and took as many classes as I could. And that's where I learned the business and met my first agent and then my second agent, who was much better.
What was your sort of level of frustration? Because I think that's another thing people don't really, they kind of see someone who's in a finished state. Oh, there's Roger, there's, whatever artist or person that creates content. And by the time you notice them at a level like that, you just think, well, they're just there. They must have just snapped their fingers. But I'm kind of curious, like, what was the level of frustration and the sort of obstacle that the biggest obstacle you had to overcome?
Oh, there are so many obstacles. How many hours do you have for this?
Well, I think that's an important thing for people to realize, because I think a lot of people give up very early. It's sort of like we were looking at this piece of concept art earlier that one of our artists did, and when you look at the initial sketch that she does, there's not much to it. It's pretty rough. In fact, a person who's untrained or unaware of the fact that this is a very experienced and very talented artist might look at this and be like, that looks like crap, don't quit your day job. But what she'll do is she'll work at it and refine it, and by the time it's done, it's this glorious illustration. But I think a lot of people, when they're starting off, they see the initial results of the effort they're putting in. And the truth is, whenever we, as creators, as people, start with something, whether it be cooking or playing an instrument or being a voice actor, we suck. And then we need to continue to suck and work through the suck until we're good at it. And so I'm just kind of, for those that are listening who are thinking about getting into this business or who are, some ways into it already, I think knowing that we all had to struggle, that you had to struggle, or knowing how you struggled.
Wax on, wax off.
Yep. Daniel's son.
Wax on, wax off continually.
We do have two more super chats really quick here, and I think there's some questions for you in here.
First off the bat, Smooshy Sushi is just bigging you up, saying that they're late to the party, got back from trick-or-treating, but says, hi, Roger. It's really awesome to hear you do the voice live. I think a lot of people were looking forward to that.
Which voice is that?
All of them, I'm sure.
All the voices.
All the voices. Hey, hooray. I love my work.
Sounds like
it's important to remember, though, with voice acting, it is the acting. It's not the voice. It's the ability to control the technique, whatever technique you're using. That's the skill, the acting. And as Dustin Hoffman says in Tootsie, as an actor, you're unemployed 99% of the time. So it's not an easy way to make a living. You have to keep going and keep going. But practicing your skill, finding what you do, finding your abilities are the important thing. Because as I've often said, there are basically two kinds of voice actors. There are people like me who do a lot of different voices or effects or vocal things. And there are people who only use their own voice, but they're so brilliant at creating characters that their characters are completely different. Like my go-to example is H. John Benjamin, the marvelous actor who is Sterling Archer on Archer, and he's Bob on Bob's Burgers. And he's done fantastic. So many shows. Now he's doing these Arby's commercials. No, we fried the turkey for the sandwiches. He only uses his voice, but his ability to create characters is superlative. He's just a marvel.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
The thing is to find what you do best. You only find that by working it, baby, working it. Practice.
Got
And
a
taking classes, workshops helps a lot because then you get feedback.
okay.
I know a lot of professional actors who still take class.
All right, so Martin has got a question from our patrons for you here, Roger.
Yeah, this one's from Adoni. When giving voice to a character, you're giving him personality, even if you want it or not. Does Cheshire have an unexpected personality, or was it fully pre-made?
I think we might have got disconnected from Discord there for a second.
Oh no.
Were you able to hear that question, Roger? I think that's going to be a no.
We'll get him back, I'm sure.
We will get him back. It'll be soon.
Keep an eye out for that.
Well, while we're doing that, let's make sure that there's not any other super chats. Here's one from Ice Killer, but this is again a question for Roger, so we don't know. Yeah, there's a couple of questions for Roger here, but we do seem to have lost Roger over on Discord, so we're just doing a connecting still. This is the wonders of the Chinese internet. It's been especially interesting these days because of the aforementioned giant expo that's going on out here in Qingpu, Hongqiao district.
Just up the road.
It's really messing with stuff. So like even the delivery service, we try to get a package delivered here. They're blocking the incoming packages, and they're also blocking the internet more than usual. So this has been frustrating on many levels, and I think that might be why we've run into this.
You're in the wrong channel.
Problem here.
That's
I'm
staff
clicking.
chat. Need to be in special guests.
Aha, there we go. All right, Roger, you still there? It says awaiting endpoint. That doesn't sound
There's a little
healthy.
information doodah.
Connecting.
Ooh.
Checking. Voice connected. Okay, Roger. Nope, he's gone.
He's gone into a different channel.
Has he? Oh, he says, I hear them.
Don't go in that one.
Roger, what are you doing in there? We're going to join him in
Here
there. Yeah, that's the
Here
wrong
I am.
channel. I see that, but that's the wrong channel.
I'm here in my box.
You're in the wrong box.
Very square and regular in here. It's a good box.
Let's just hope that no one else jumps in here while we're here.
Yes, that's not a secure channel.
You want to be in special guests, Roger.
Hey.
Okay.
Channel
There we go.
jumping.
Can you hear us now?
Hear you.
All right, so Martin has got a
Yes,
question from one of our patrons for you.
Let's,
So here
let's
we
get
go.
through some questions. Yes, Adoni Ariaga asks, when giving voice to a character, you are giving him a personality, even if you want it or not. Does Cheshire have an unexpected personality, or was it fully pre-made?
Certainly unexpected for you. But that's sort of the point, isn't it? He is a surprise.
Oh, if we lost you again there.
Oh.
No, there we
back
go.
again.
Back again.
Well, I'm here. I'm here.
All right. We do have another question from our good friend Tom
I've been-
Resnick.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
But you did just seem to disconnect a bit, but we'll keep going. Yes,
It
question.
says RTC disconnected.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
A question from Tom Resnick says, as a voice actor, I must know, do you find yourself talking to yourself all day?
Oh, yes.
What exactly do you say to yourself all day, Roger?
Oh, all sorts of interesting things. I'm just full of interesting things to say and talk about to myself and anyone else who happens. Or as Peter O'Toole says in the ruling class, when they asked, how do you know your God? He says, simple. Whenever I pray, I find I'm talking to myself.
There you go. We do have another super chat here. I think this is a very funny question.
Yep, from Alice on Elm Street, saying, what does Roger do when a telemarketer calls? My friend shouts random phrases into the phone. Was that hang up?
You don't mess with them. You don't give them a little bit of voice run around.
No, they're usually so scripted. It doesn't matter what you sound like or do. They're just going to plow ahead with what they have to say.
So, I mean, on that sort of topic, do you find you're able to apply your work skill in funny sort of, outside of work situations?
Well, I have in the past, like I was born and raised in Georgia, the gentlemanly agricultural South. And because I imitated people and things on television all my life, my accent kind of flattened out. Are you getting this?
I can hear you just fine, yeah.
Okay. So my accent kind of flattened out, and when I'd take my car into the garage and say, I don't know what's wrong with it, there's something, they go, where are you from? You ain't from around here, are you? Yeah, I'll let you know how much it'll be. And I developed the habit when I lived there of when I would go in to have my car worked in, I'd go and say, I don't know what's wrong with it. They something, but I can't tell. Oh, sure, we'll get that to you right away, buddy.
Well, as a Texan, I know this technique very well. I think my accent flattened out because I grew up watching Star Trek and Monty Python, so I got a very flat accent, but my whole family talks like this, so we'd be at barbecue and they'd look at me like, "Bo, what's wrong with you? You don't sound right." And so I would,
where are you from?
Where are you from? You ain't from around here, boy. So if I ever got pulled over by the police, especially, I'd be like, "Oh, good afternoon, sir." And they'd say, "Good afternoon, boy."
We're from the TV generation.
Exactly. So,
right.
But I especially I learned to use that accent with the police, because if you got pulled over by a Texas state trooper and you didn't have the Texas accent, man, they would give you trouble. So, yeah, it's a word.
Step out the cars.
Exactly. We got two more super chats. You're attracting all kinds of super chats here, Roger. Ice Killer.
I'll see your pair and I'll raise you. Ice Killer.
Ice Killer, that's his name. He kills ice for a living.
Apparently.
His nickname is Heat.
Ice Killer says, when you do character voice, does the studio direct you how they want the character to sound, or do you do your own interpretation? If you do your own interpretation, where do you get the inspiration?
Oh, it all depends. For example, when I did the voice for the Scream films, everything was right there in the script for that opening scene. The guy has to be kind of sexy sounding and interesting to keep her on the phone, but then he's got to be able, with the whole, oh, you're making popcorn. I only make popcorn when I'm going to watch a movie. Oh, you're watching a video. What are you watching? Oh, scary movie. You like scary movies? What's your favorite scary movie? But then he's got to go from being kind of flirty and interesting sounding to be able to turn it over. Why? What did you think I said? I want to know who I'm looking at. But then, say something like Mojo Jojo, there was one set of specs on the original audition that he was sort of like a kind of a, hold on.
I know that sound. That's Roger's phone ringing. You still have the same ringer from the last time I saw you.
That's the Outer Limits one.
There you go.
That's my phone ringer. But as I was saying about Mojo Jojo, there was one set of specs on the original audition that he sounded kind of like a mean Peter Lorre. But I got called in for the callback, the second audition. And it was in there that Craig McCracken, the creator of the Powerpuff Girls, said, well, what would he sound like with a little bit of a samurai thing? So it turned from Peter Lorre into a sort of Toshiro Mifune. Only a funny Mifune.
So there is a bit of back and forth when you're doing the voices and working with these creators on these.
Oh, very definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think for the characters you've done for the Alice series, I mean, they've become, the voices have become so much a part of what makes those characters iconic. And I really think that, you know, we get lucky sometimes. These things work out where the character, the art, the voice, the writing, it just is magical. And, you know, that may be one of the reasons why I'm stuck forevermore making Alice games, because we really hit the nail on the head there. I
tell you, it's a tremendous help when you're auditioning or whatever to be able to see a character sheet or some kind of something of the physical aspect of the person. So that we have because it is a very physical thing.
Well, we have another super chat here from
Zachary Endres. Very big super chat. Thank you for that. Saying, can you give me and my best friend Shannon a shout out for Halloween? We always play your games.
Well, happy Halloween, Zachary.
Yep, Zachary and Shannon.
And Shannon.
Happy Halloween.
Roger, do you have a happy Halloween for Zachary and Shannon?
Happy Halloween, Zachary and Shannon. I'll be seeing you soon.
Ooh, no.
And I shall be seeing you soon as well, children.
All right.
Have fun.
Well, we're going to have to do a contest here. Roger, do you have a question for our insane children in the chats here, so that they have to spam the chat? So if you could ask them a question that's relatively easy to answer, and they can answer that in the chat, and then we can give away some prizes here.
Relatively easy to answer. What is the average airspeed of an unladen swallow? What is your favorite color?
I want to say blue. No, red.
That's one killer rabbit.
I don't know how many of our...
call me Tim.
Tim is my favorite. Tim the Wizard. I don't know how many of our fans here of an age that they would get Monty Python jokes, but so Roger's question for those children of you spamming is, what is the average airspeed of an unladen? Was it a sparrow or a swallow? Swallow.
African or European?
You mean
swallow?
an African swallow or a European swallow? I don't know that.
There you go. Alice on Elm Street asks for Roger, can you just continue to say Mojo Jojo lines? The nostalgia is feeding my soul.
No, I absolutely refuse to speak any lines as a Mojo Jojo. So, you and your nostalgia will have to go on a diet. I suggest non-dairy and avoid gluten.
Now, did I hear correctly that Powerpuff Girls may be making a comeback? Is that true?
Well, the series was rebooted a couple of years ago, and as far as I know, still has new episodes that are going to be coming out.
What was it? I saw some
Thankfully.
news. I wonder if it was movie news or something like that, because they did have a movie at one point as well.
Indeed, the Powerpuff Girls movie.
Appropriately named.
Yes.
Well, that's a funny one, because we were hoping to make a Alice film, and actually the first director that picked up the rights at Dimension to do that was somebody you've worked with, which is Wes Craven, who of course was the guy behind the Scream film. So we almost, but not quite, almost had the same director and the same film company, Dimension, that was behind Scream, also getting behind Alice, but it just didn't happen. What was it like working with Wes?
Yes, he was a marvelous, marvelous man.
Yeah.
Actually, you and I were speaking once about another director I like very much. I just tweeted about him today as a Halloween movie suggestion, Mr. Toy Hawk.
Oh, yeah.
And I tweeted, suggested people see We're Going to Eat You.
It's a good one.
Early films. I like my horror with laughs, if you know what I mean.
For sure I do. All right, we're going to roll it here and see who wins the Skull and Lulu patch. And we have got Taylor Preston. Congratulations, Taylor, for winning the Skull.
Congratulations.
You can email mysterious@americanmedia.com and be sure to include your mailing address, phone number, mention the fact that you won a Skull and a Lulu patch, and we will get those mailed out to you right away. All right. Martin, you got any more questions over there for Mr. Jackson?
Actually, not really. You've kind of talked a lot of the ones that we've already answered just during your general chatting, like, what is your favorite line of the Cheshire Cat and stuff like that. So if anybody in the chat now is interested in asking anything, let us know.
Do let us know. And Roger, if there's any of your current projects that you're working on you'd like to let our guys know about, now would be a good time.
I'm actually starting to produce books on tape. So
Ooh.
I have one book available now, a sweet little science fiction story that you can get through Audible or Amazon or iTunes. It's a book by a writer named Jack McNally called Asclepius Stone. Two others in the work.
How do you what is an Asclepius stone? Eclipse stone or Asclepius stone? Oh, I found it. Asclepius.
Yes, as in the god of medicine.
We got it. So Asclepius stone is up on screen now, and it's now Amazon is doing all kinds of pop-ups for me. Very annoying, but this looks like a pretty cool book. And so if we go over to Audible, we'd be able to hear your voice reading this. Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. I'm a really big fan of Audible books, and I have an Audible account, and I love the setup, and I'm constantly downloading and spending way too much money on audiobooks these days.
Me too.
What are some of your favorites of recent audiobooks you've listened to?
Well, I'm listening to some short sort of horror stories that were produced by Amazon as little things for the Kindle. It's I believe there are 7 stories they're calling Dark Corners, and each story is an individual little short piece. They're kind of fun. I actually not too long ago just finished listening to The Count of Monte Cristo for the first time. It was an excellent read, and of course I never made it through the book, but thanks to audiobooks I did finish it, and it's a great book.
Yeah, I've found that experience with a couple of books. Recently, I've been reading a book called Maps. So I've been listening to a book called Maps of Meaning, which is kind of in the same vein as the Jungian dissection or explorations done by Joseph Campbell in the monomyth, like the hero with 1,000 faces, those types of books, which I think you're pretty well aware of.
Favorite.
Yeah, so this Maps of Meaning is very similar in the kind of message, but it's a lot more dense. It's a lot thicker in terms of the weight of the content. And I'd read it before, but it was really hard to read. But as an audiobook, it is excellent.
There's a book that I've read many times. I read it every few years or so. And the last time I looked, it was still not available as an audiobook that I certainly think would do well. It's The Uses of Enchantment by Bruno Bettelheim.
I really like that book. It's a really good one.
It's an amazing book, and it's one of the ones you always find something new in it when you come back to it, like Gravity's Rainbow or Ouspensky's In Search of the Miraculous, or The Theory of Celestial Influence. There's always something new.
Yeah, those are all really good.
I don't understand people who say, well, I read that book, I don't need to read it again. Or I've seen that movie, I don't want to see it again. That's like saying, well, I ate a hamburger. I don't eat hamburgers anymore. I had one before.
Yeah, some of my favorite books and movies I have read or watched, a dozen times or more easily. And I mean, when it's a good book and you have a relationship with it, it's hard sometimes not to go back. I find myself in these periods where I want a sort of comfort, or I want to kind of explore a territory that I know, but especially when it's a good book, you have the sense that you may find some new meaning. And one of the things that happens in finding new meaning is that the book may not have changed, but you, the reader, have changed. And so the messaging and the content of the book will have taken on a different flavor.
Yes, that's one of the reasons I felt so lucky to be involved with the Alice games, because the Alice books are among my favorites. I've read them again and again. I've read background, and pieces on them. I just love the writings of Reverend Dodgson, Lewis Carroll. I'm hoping someday to do Sylvie and Bruno as an audio book, but that's kind of a tough book.
That would be tough.
It's an amazing one.
Martin had an idea the other day about how to present a new Alice game as a musical. Have you ever seen a musical video game, Roger? What do you think about that?
That I have, but immediately what came to mind was the Buffy musical episode.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was an interesting idea. I mean, we got pretty close to, sort of theatrical presentation of things in the Grimm game, but I think, trying to go all the way to the point of a proper musical.
They're having Alice singing, like belting out show tunes during cutscenes for like happiness, sadness, fear, depression, whatever's happening at the time. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. A good musical is not easy to do. It requires a very specific set of skills.
Well,
I have a certain set of skills.
That's sort of the humor in The Producers, where they try to set out to make a terrible musical, Springtime for Hitler, and then it turns out that it goes off just fine. Yeah.
Actually, if you've never seen it, you should see a film that starred Milton Berle called New Faces of 1936.
Okay.
Because the idea behind this, basically a showcase for Milton Berle and other newer actors at the time, was a Broadway producer who's trying to produce a flop so he can make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. New Faces of 1936.
Okay, we'll have to go check that out. Because that's basically the premise of The Producers as well, right? With Mel Brooks, and is that they have a theater, but they don't want a success, so they try to make the worst possible.
Gene Wilder, his appointed tax accountant,
exactly
tells him, you could make more money with a flop than you could with a success. And
right.
Bing goes the bulb over Max Bialystock's head.
So we have another super chat
I'm wearing
here.
a cardboard belt.
John Rebeldo sends another super chat.
He's asking, what is your favorite part about playing the Cheshire Cat or the Hatter or anybody else in the games?
It's not a very broad question.
Just
the favorite part of voice acting.
Just acting, exercising the ability, the skill. That's, someone who enjoys cooking likes to cook. Someone who enjoys acting likes to act. Someone who enjoys writing writes. And that's why when people ask me, what's your favorite part, I always say the next one.
Okay.
Well, hopefully one of your next ones will be a new Alice game. That would be great.
Would be marvelous. I really look forward to that.
We have another super chat. You're getting a ton of super chats here, Roger.
Taylor Gowan suggests that you should record audio for the Lovecraft novels.
Oh. Yes, I'd certainly like to do a reading of Pickman's Model. That would be a lot of fun.
For sure. So I've also noticed that you have a bit of fame around the design of T-shirts, apparently paraphernalia, and you've worked with
my
clients.
former career.
I see.
Yes.
So you've worked with everybody from the Rolling Stones to Pee Wee Herman, Led Zeppelin, Ozzy Osbourne. It's an eclectic group.
Oh, you have no idea.
So what was that all about?
Was a large company. Pardon?
It was a large company
Called Winterland Productions that no longer exists, but they were one of the biggest music merchandisers at the time of the period.
I gotcha. Well, we both then can claim having worked with Led Zeppelin because it says here that you did shirts or paraphernalia for them. I hired them. They worked in my studio. Well, actually, it was just one guy. It was a Chinese guy who had decided that his chosen English name would be Led Zeppelin. So I can lay claim to having actually employed Led Zeppelin.
Fantastic. Hey, Led, get the lead out. Where is Led?
He wanted to be referred to by the entire name. He didn't want it shortened, you know.
Taylor Goen here, super chats, asking, saying another one of our viewers would like you to say something inspiring in Cheshire's voice.
Something inspiring. Yes, all right, children. That was a bit literal. I admit it. But one must find one's own way.
This is, I think, the Cheshire Cat's primary message is you figure it out on your own. You are on your own.
Yes,
but
you know where you're going, really. You don't need me, but I'm just here.
I think he's just there to kind of giggle at you when you make mistakes, when you step wrong.
Never seen a cat disappear.
So we do have another super chat here. Alice on Elm Street says they bought the book from Amazon. They went over and bought the book that you mentioned, the Audible.
Oh, thank you very much.
So you've scored a book sale.
I hope you will continue to buy my forthcoming projects.
For sure.
And I hope they entertain you very much.
They will.
I'm sure they will. So here's Alice on Elm Street again asking Roger, what is your favorite Powerpuff Girls episode?
Oh, well, there were a lot that were fun to do. But one of my most favorite was an episode called Just Another Manic Mojo, where basically Mojo wakes up in the morning and you see his morning routine, and the Darth Vader-like orb, his globe gets screwed onto his gigantic brain, and then he goes in to have his breakfast, and he opens the refrigerator and says, "What? I have only 1 egg, and 2 is the minimum requirement for a nutritious breakfast. Curses!" So he has to
remember
walk
that
to the store to
episode.
get eggs.
I also remember that episode. That was a good one.
Yeah. Powerpuff Girls saved the day. Curses!
All right.
A day in the life of Mojo.
Well, I think we have got through all of our super chats, all of our questions, so we can wrap it up here with Roger. And so, Roger, if you have any kind of last-minute advice or projects you want to talk about with our fans here.
If you're interested in learning about voice acting, the marvelous actor D. Bradley Baker has a website called, as I remember it, You Want to Be a Voice Actor, or I Want to Be a Voice Actor. You can look up just search for D. Bradley Baker, who is well known as Klaus, the German scientist fish on American Dad, amongst many, many other roles. D. Bradley Baker, I want to be a voice actor. And hopefully folks will check out my books as they come out. I hope you enjoy them.
Sounds good.
And I very much look forward to any work in the future with you, sir, and your amazing team.
Well, you are, of course, an integral and necessary part of that amazing team. So I do think we cannot possibly make another game without you, which is a good thing. And hopefully we're going to have some news about a new game pretty soon. There is some stuff going on behind the scenes that I think is going to be happy, exciting news for everybody out there.
Can't wait to hear.
All right, well, we're going to let you go, Roger, and I'm sure you've got to get back to talking to yourself.
Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It has been fantastic.
And thank you to all of you who listened and took your time.
For sure. We will put some links to the book in the description below for those that are listening later on. Be sure to look down into the description here on YouTube for links to some of Roger's current and past projects. Alrighty. Well, thank you, Roger. And we are going to mute you, deafen you now, apparently. There we go.
There we go.
All right, everybody. So we are now coming up on yet another contest time.
Almost time. We could do it a little bit early.
So why don't we ask? I think it's your turn, Martin.
I have to ask something.
Yeah, it's your
I
turn.
wasn't ready
for the
for
spam
that.
question.
What, other than the Powerpuff Girls, is your favorite cartoon?
What is your favorite cartoon other than the Powerpuff Girls? What is your favorite cartoon other than the Powerpuff Girls?
It's probably Rick and Morty.
That's got to be pretty high up there.
Although it's not my favorite, but I told you the other day I've started watching BoJack Horseman.
Right.
It's really funny. It's not quite up there with Rick for me, but I am binging it quite happily.
So, I mean, Roger mentioned Archer, and for a very long time, Archer was without question. It was, every time I watched it, I would cry laughing. And I absolutely love Archer. But then, of course, you introduced me to Rick and Morty, and now I cry and pee on myself with laughter watching Rick and Morty. So they've definitely moved into first place. But I've always been a big fan of cartoons. Back in the day, I loved Beavis and Butthead. I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah,
I was a big fan of Rin and Stimpy.
Saw that mentioned in the chat.
It was very good. Simpsons, of course, for a long time was edgy and cool, and I loved The Simpsons. Of course, Family Guy has maintained its edge. I'm a really big fan of Family Guy, and in that whole genre, of course, South Park. I was lucky I got to meet the South Park creators, Trey and Matt, a couple times in Los Angeles. They were fun to hang out with. I even had friends that were writers, staff writers on South Park, so I got to hear learn a bit about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so lots of good cartoon content out there.
There is.
Yeah.
Saw some people mentioning BoJack, saying it's great, but it gets dark.
Futurama. Let's not forget Futurama. That was also one of my favorites.
I thought it was pretty funny when they mentioned Bender in Family Guy.
Yeah.
It was like they were trying to trace the origin of a joke. It's like someone told someone, then somebody told someone, and then somebody got it from Bender for some reason.
No. Somebody mentioned Robot Chicken, and that's also that one. Some of those can make me laugh so hard. There's one where Darth Vader, I don't remember, it's not Vader. Vader calls Palpatine, and he tells him that the Death Star has been blown up. And I remember Palpatine's on the phone. He goes, "What the hell is an aluminum falcon?" And anyway, Robot Chicken is fantastic. All right, I think we've got enough spam in here. We're gonna roll it for a skull and a Lulu patch.
Will Medved, you have won a skull. This is a skull. And you have also won a Lulu patch. These patches are a part of the second embroidered patch set, which we are going to be promoting over on Patreon. Anyway, mysterious at AmericanMcGee.com
is the place where you need to send your mailing address, your phone number. You should also include your actual name, and also make sure that you mention that you want a skull and a patch. And last but not least, do all of that in a format that makes it easy for me to send you your prize. If you make it difficult, your prize will not arrive.
And you don't want that.
You do not want that.
No.
I do want to make really quick mention about this promotion that we've got going on over on Patreon, because literally time is running out. If you like the artwork that we're producing, we are doing this special right now. That special is one where you can get these two posters that you see here on screen. They're massive, actually. They both measure something like...
The long side is about... What is it?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's the size of that thing back there.
Big.
It's like 50 by 70 or something like that. They're pretty big. Anyway, if it's right there, it's 47 by 68, so 50 by 70.
I was right. I started with a...
These posters are... Anyway, if you want, and if you've not done a month at this level on Patreon, right now, if you sign up before midnight on October 31st, you can get this Cheshire poster, you can get this Red Queen Tentacly, whatever, death porn poster, and you can also get a Chaos necklace. Those three things are yours for the one low price of $75. Keeping in mind, that's like $250 worth of crap. So if you want
worth of crap.
I didn't say crack. Crap with a P.
Said crap.
Crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Apparently,
your crap.
Will won the last competition while he was on the toilet.
That's disgusting, Will. It's a TMI.
Stop watching us on the toilet, please.
Yeah, it's actually really bad for your bowels to sit on the toilet on the phone. I don't know if you're aware of this, but scientists have come out and said to the world, stop that, because apparently it does something not great to your tubes, your pipes, as it were, and so you should not sit on the toilet for ages looking at your phone. Who knew?
Winning something and getting toilet advice.
Who knew?
What a day for you, Will.
It's freaking crazy. All right, let's get into some of these Patreon comments, because we are out of art review and we are done with Roger, but I do want to get through all of the comments from our lovely patrons.
Are you going to be playing?
Nah.
Not going to be playing Little Nightmares?
Nah. I've got a fake snake here. I'm going to play with my snake while you read.
Okay. This is from the latest post. It's from our pal Greg.
Greg Purrrfect of Greg's Junk.
Greg of Greg's Junk's fame. It's actually about this image, what I mentioned earlier. Looks wonderful, but I think Shadow Alice should not be a red tentacle monster. My first thought when I saw that was that it was the Red Queen.
Yeah, I think that that's a fair comment, Greg, and I don't know that this... is this Shadow Alice? So this is a discussion, a conversation I've yet to have with Omri. I don't know that his intention is that the character hanging around back there is... It's not like we're going to see that character traipsing through Wonderland being Alice or being her shadow. This might just be a kind of like artistic representation of the idea of a Shadow Alice. But I think fair enough. We don't want to confuse the tentacles with, who Alice is too much. I'm not sure if that's what Omri intended here, or if this was just sort of the shadow, and this is sort of the nonsense that surrounds it. Anyway, let's find out.
Let's find out. Laura Bryce has a general question that some people might be interested in, is asking if the prints for this month's Patreon, and by extension, I guess every print, will they be signed?
Yes. This is one of the things that actually kind of... How do I put that? It slows me down, it keeps me from traveling around as much as I'd like to, is that when we do these prints that are given away via Patreon, and in general, like when you buy a print from Mysterious, they are, all of them, signed, autographed. And so that means that art prints have to come to me here at our studio in Shanghai, and then have to go from, you know, my signing it. We actually stick those things in a tube, then we send them out to the world. So it does kind of make the process a little bit slower and more complicated, and it anchors me to this location for as many prints as I have to sign all the time. But yeah, everything you get from us that's the art prints is always signed. And that's the thing. You could actually, I mean, the resolution on the files that we put up online oftentimes are decent enough. You could just go off, and I'm sure people do, print their own. You're not actually paying for the print. You are paying for me to have it come here, autograph it, stick it in a tube. I mean, I don't know if people get that, but like there's a space over there. I've shown pictures of it before, where Martin and I sat around, like sometimes for how many days out of a month? Like 10? It's a significant, it is a real amount of work. And by the way, I'm not complaining, but I don't think people understand the scale of the operation. When you have to sign and wrap up and stick, what, 400?
On the last super big month, we would do 300 to 400 poster tubings. 300 to 400 poster tubings. So you could do the math. If every poster tube out of 400 takes like, what, five minutes? It takes length of time. It takes like 5 minutes, roughly. I mean, between all the stages and stuff that goes on. And that's what you hear when the doorbell rings while we're doing the live stream. You hear this Bing doorbell. Bong. That is the art prints being delivered. It is. There you go. Ray Weatherford just super chats us. Thank you for that. Suggesting that Shadow Alice could be like a photograph negative. Yeah, that's all right. Kind of like Mr. Negative in the recent Spider-Man game. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, we don't want to do that. We'll get called copycats. We will. But, you know, we have seen in recent art images, and those were even done by Omri, there were some sort of shadowy bits. You know what's screwed up is that Alex sent a new image, and it had the kind of shadow element in it, but I forgot to put it onto the USB. Oh well. I apologize, Alex. Stick it up on Patreon soon. We will. It will be in a Patreon post, but you can see a sort of the version of that. So he had done this image, which we looked at last week. There is an updated version of this. This integrates a bit of Alice with the shadow kind of alongside her. And I think in the updated image, it's actually got that Shadow Alice kind of in the background. And I think it's more in line with what Ray is suggesting here. Okay. Yeah. I saw the thumbnail of that image. I didn't see the full one. Sad that I sometimes that happens. I screw up. I'm terrible. All right. I'll take my beatings later. Yeah. We've got a comment here from good old Drunken Catface. Hey, Drunken Catface. This one's about Pirate Jam. I enjoy watching every single video from Pirate Jam. It would be amazing if there were short videos with developers sharing their personal experience, talking about technologies and trends in game development in a form of pirate stories. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that people are enjoying watching these. I felt a little bit sad last time around when we put these videos up online. And a lot of work goes into the videos, right? And again, this isn't sort of complaining. This is just saying, like, we go out there, we had a film crew, we had a guy, Russell Parks, who did all the photography and filming and auto recording and then editing. And I mean, I actually feel like the quality of the content that's produced is pretty decent. Really good last time. But if you go look at my YouTube channel, if we do a live stream, we might get like 5,000 or even 10,000 views on a video. Pirate Jam videos might have like 500. Yeah. It's like something's it's just not working. And I did send out in the most recent, sort of Patreon update the question
about how do we make Pirate Jam more engaging. This is a challenge. It's a struggle. This time around we've got people coming out. We've got our sponsors. We've got our boats. We know where we're going. It's going to be a blast. But I do wish that we could present something that has a sort of broader public appeal and do that. Like, I know one way we could make it have mass appeal. It's just a bunch of girls in bikinis on the boats. We would get millions of views on
those thumbnails. Would be clicked. That's just the way of the world.
But that's not really what we're going for. But sadly, that is the way of the world. So,
yep. Will Medved comes back with a super chat. Thank you for that. Says, I'm working on an animation, a pitch for a kids show that features a very heavy metal song with accessible kid-friendly lyrics to really stand out. Is being different good as long as it's marketable?
Well, I think that question is actually a statement. Being different is good as long as it's marketable. But, I think that the question, the definition that is the question mark here is what is marketable. That is not the same thing year to year or day to day or month to month. As we see, the kind of rise and fall of interest in various aspects of culture, what is marketable is constantly changing. And this is the difference between, there can be really amazing artists, but they happen to be working in a domain. Like maybe there's somebody out there who's making the best ever children's satanic heavy metal, but it's just not the time for that in terms of the culture. And meanwhile, there could be somebody out there who's just a kind of mediocre, like kids, smug house music, smug tropical house for 8-year-olds. And it's mediocre music, but the zeitgeist, the cultural moment is exactly right for that. So he could be basically not that great of an artist. And if you were to compare, this guy's satanic heavy metal for children to this guy's smug tropical house music for children, we'd all prefer the quality. We think that the satanic music was much more high quality, but the culture is not asking for that right now. So if that makes sense. Another version of the answer to that is just make stuff, make lots of different stuff, and make lots of different pitches, because you never know what's going to stick. Oftentimes the thing that sells, the thing that sticks, is the thing you least expect to work.
We find that with Facebook image advertising.
We do.
Make a bunch of images and you think people are going to click on that. It looks great.
We have this kind of internal joke bet going on oftentimes. Oh, here's a bunch of ads. And then I'll say to Martin, or Martin will say to me, which of these ads do you think is going to perform best? And we only get that right 1 out of 10 times.
If that.
It is absolutely incredible how wrong you can be about what people want in terms of art.
True dat. Here we have a comment about the bunny art from Patreon. Ghibli Girl suggesting what we said last week, I think it was, just to make sure the nose is leather or stitched, and it will be perfect.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And
one of our long-time followers, I think, an Out of the Woods follower as well, Nigel Manser.
Been around for a while.
Asks, is the final model going to be bright white? I get it's a white rabbit, but maybe have it darker, more gritty white, or bright grey to match the dark aesthetic of the toy.
Well, of course, he is referring to the rabbit. We're going to go at this in stages, and the stage we're at right now is not as concerned about the specific and accurate coloring or even the texture of this material. What we're really concerned about right now is the shape, the size, the construction of this thing. So when you're looking at the artwork that we're doing, when you're looking at the models that come out, we are less concerned about the ultimate color. And actually, Alex Crowley, one of our amazing artists, the guy who did this image. He did send an email along explaining about a kind of dye transfer process that we could use on the rabbits in order to achieve the kind of filth level that would be expected for this particular toy, especially if it had been in Alice's possession for any period of time. So I think we probably will end up going towards some sort of dirtied up version of this. It's not going to be Snow White like this, but again, this is a sample. It's a production sample.
Yep. Something here that we could look into from Ace. Again, liking what Ace is seeing, all the art for the rabbit, but says if he turns out anywhere close to what Riot Games' Tibber plush is, he will be perfect. Floppy limbs, soft and cuddly, not overstuffed.
There you go.
Should look into what that is.
Well, that is
see
what
if we can find the manufacturer or whatever.
I mean, that is really what we're trying to go for ultimately. And I think if you look at some of the more recent artwork that we looked at earlier today, of course that person wouldn't necessarily have seen that yet because some of that we've just put up here. But the image that Omri and Joey sent that showed, very specifically the sort of floppiness of the bunny, we're trying to communicate that to the factory. And of course, we all are a little bit surprised at just how unfloppy this was when they brought it back to us. But again, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's sort of, whenever I send this off, and this happened last time around as well, it was like, how much instruction do we want to try to give them? Because 90% of the instruction you try to give them, they actually ignore. So giving them too much instruction, it's a sort of path to certain frustration. And I know this is going to sound a little funny, but it's like when you're making stuff in the Chinese factories, especially something like this, it's almost like a Jackson Pollock style of process. It's like you just fling stuff at the walls, and eventually, if you're lucky, you get something out of the process that matches or even oftentimes exceeds your expectations for what it was you were trying to build. Now, of course, there are people who can come at it much more scientific and they may even have a working relationship with a factory and an established process. We don't have that. This is our first toy. So this is also a bit of a learning experience for us.
Okay, what else have we got here? This is going on to a different post now. This was the Rough and Tumble post. So that was the doll riding the Lulu.
Right.
Was it not?
Right.
But yes, some general comments here from Chance Houston, saying that maybe more powerful enemies in the game could have chaos stars on them, and when leading up to a powerful attack, it will glow as a warning.
Yeah, we saw this concept mentioned a couple times in some of the comments here, that maybe on the bottom of the rabbit's foot or somewhere on the enemies that we encounter. So this was the kind of like the Lulu-esque dog with the porcelain doll riding around on it. That maybe it's sort of game mechanic, it's boss mechanic. The battle mechanic would be that star. I like that idea. It could also be that there's a variety of alchemical symbols, and that each enemy has its own unique symbol, or that perhaps the symbols on the enemies are sort of they're moving around as you move through the game. So you don't always meet, one enemy and find that it always has the same symbol on it. Yeah. But this is exactly the kind of thing that you should go over to the wiki and you should log in. I'm not logged in, so you're not going to see it. But if you log in and you come down to the bottom of any of the wiki pages, you will find there is a place where you can hit a button and you can comment on that wiki page. So I think we're going to start moving more and more of this kind of feedback. I think we still want it on Patreon, but if you've got concepts, if you've got ideas like this, paste them in over on Patreon so we can read them out loud and talk about them. Yeah. But also, if you feel so inclined to get a little more engaged and active with the design process, then head over to the wiki and dump your thoughts into the comments over there.
Please do. to log in. Continuing with that, Ghibli Girl 29 again, saying loves the Lulu cameo idea, especially when running to open up new areas. But maybe after defeat and he runs away, he can get resaddled a couple of different times. Cut to a scene of him getting caught again and having to defeat another one of these enemies to help our canine friend.
I like that. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. You know, any kind of variation with the enemies so that they can kind of come back and have fun is a good one.
Variation is good.
So I do have this this comments thing kind of appearing on screen here. The problem is the way that we set up there we go. So if you go down here, once you've logged in on a page, you can actually click add a comment, and then you can type stuff in here. You could type like font lord is ...
The mystery deepens.
Yeah, so
what is font lord?
But let's not use it to make fun of font lord. But anyway, there is a comments section here. Do keep in mind that we do moderate the comments, and we'd prefer that you be nice.
Yes.
Yes.
Here's some feedback on the Alex image we were just looking at from Anthony Morvan. As she's holding the knife in her right hand, I think the blood splash should be on her right cheek.
Yes.
Wasn't it? No, the hand was across, wasn't it? So it's on the opposite side.
Yeah, I think he's pointing out the perhaps physical inconsistency of the blood splatter. Though in all fairness, Anthony, what if the blood splatter came from an enemy whose jugular she had sliced across this way, and then as that enemy was going down to the ground, the blood squirted up onto her face and landed on that side?
Yeah,
there's all kinds of stuff that could have led to the blood being on that side. And I think from Alex's perspective as an artist, he may be trying to create a kind of symmetry with the blood on one side and no blood on the other. So,
Did you think about that, Anthony Morvan?
Anthony Morvan thinks about a lot.
He does.
He does.
Okay, last but not least, Brandy Cavazos asks, will we be seeing Wonderland before it's corrupted, or the characters as they first were? And also, actually, a really long post after that, but that was the question. That was an
epically long post. I mean, I'm actually pretty sure that for this month, that post took the epic long post prize.
Wasn't as big as I forget the name. You know who you are. But yeah, it was a long one.
It was a really long post, and I have to say I have not found yet time to read that in its entirety. But for the basic question of whether or not we would see Wonderland in its sort of unadulterated, unbroken state, again, head over to the Asylum wiki. Click on the big Asylum logo there to get to the main page. And if you look at the stages of PTSD, this also does a kind of breakdown of the presentation of the levels. So this gives you a good sense of the movement we're going to make through the game from start to finish. We're actually going to need to start off. Slumber needs to be on top as well, because there's a kind of like pre-slumber, and then she goes back into slumber. But shock is, of course, the inciting incident. This is going to be her going from the asylum. This is the fire. So this is, shock is the result of the fire directly. But one of the things she's going to see when she first gets into Wonderland is this area called Denial. And so Denial, it's not just a river in Egypt. It is also this very beautiful presentation of Wonderland in a form that we would expect if there was nothing going on, if there's nothing wrong. But I did write up a bit of the description here, and so we do make it clear that, well, it says Cheshire Cat knows just how fucked up things are, but he's being pretty oblique about it, and that in Denial we're kind of briefly lulled into believing everything is all right. And I've written in a kind of sketch of an idea where in the opening scene back on planet Earth, We do see young Alice with Lizzie building a snowman in the snow. Remember, this is in late November that this takes place. And I thought we might carry that into Wonderland. And so that in denial, Alice, sees what she thinks is Lizzie and chases her into the area of denial. And Lizzie may kind of continue the conversation they were having in suggesting that they build a snowman, they find snow, but it's that snowball, which is also a representation of silver, which is also connected to the moon, which is also a function of denial. This is all the layers that we are working on, the layers of the onion here.
It's very oniony.
Well, it is very oniony, and those layers will become very important as we start to write the dialogue, and as each of the individual stages informs the direction and the dialogue and the obstacles. So that's why it's important that we create in the way that we're doing right now. I do have a general through line of what's going to happen, but by weaving together all these bits of the elements and the psychology and the alchemy, it makes the story that much richer and more interesting. Anyway, that is denial. So yes, you will see an unbroken version, but it is a lie.
Okay. Just see that Nira K just joined us. OMG, I missed 1 hour.
Oh no, Nira K.
If you just joined us, you missed 2 hours. But hasn't
true.
there been some sort of daylight savings recently?
I don't know.
Anyway.
We don't have that in China. It is getting to be effing dark at 5 p.m. here. I mean, it's like lights out. It's 5 p.m. Nope, that's it. It is nighttime. And we don't have daylight savings in China. And as a result, the people living in Western China, I've heard stories. They really suffer out there, especially in the winter, because if they're getting up and the sun doesn't come up for them for hours. They get up at like what is 6 a.m. to us, but that's like an hour plus difference on the other side of China.
Yeah.
And so they're getting up when it still feels like middle of the night.
Terrible. You know what we should do?
Another prize!
That, and
we gotta
talk about freaky fandoms.
We do need to talk about freaky fandoms.
So let's get people to spam first with your favorite Halloween pleasure movie. What do you...
That sounds like porn.
It's not
Why would you call it a pleasure movie?
You know, like your guilty pleasure.
That sounds like porn too.
The sequel to porn.
Come on. This doesn't... I've got it. Spam your favorite Halloween movie that sounds like a porn movie. Like, make up your own... Yeah. So, there's a movie called Scream. But, how would you pornify that? Don't be too dirty. We don't want to all get kicked off of YouTube. Maybe this is a bad idea.
Don't do...
Okay, don't get us kicked off YouTube.
But let's talk about freaky fandoms, shall we?
Let's talk about freaky fandoms. So our good friends, Andrew Hawkins and Deborah, they do have a podcast called Freaky Fandoms. And this is where they dissect horror and culture, games, toys, artists, art...
all of the above.
And they have been doing a 60 Days of Halloween, sort of a review of all of the most famous and wonderful and horrible the world has to offer in terms of scary movies. Now, they are going to review, this is the grand finale, they're going to review the list of movies that you see here.
What have we seen?
Starting with Halloween and ending with The Worst Witch.
Seen Halloween, obviously.
It's funny. Whenever I see lists of these kinds of movies, this era of movies. So Halloween, for instance, when I would watch Halloween, it was on VHS tape. And it
VHS.
VHS. Now, that's the European version. But the VHS tapes would come out at Halloween, specifically to watch Halloween. And then they'd go back in a box somewhere, and you wouldn't watch them again until the following Halloween. Did you have that?
Well, we had video nasties. That's what they called them in England.
Yeah.
There was a big political brouhaha, and they thought society was going to crumble because people were scaring nasty videos around.
Yeah, well, now it's video games.
I just saw a comment I really like from Big Mood. Hocus Pocus.
I like Edward Peenerhands. I also like that people are Texas Ding Dong Massacre. See, now, the Rocky Horror could have been Rocky Horrors.
Could have been.
Yeah, Night of the Lusting Dead. Actually, they're doing a pretty good job of
They're doing it tastefully.
Tasteful Halloween-esque porn movie crossovers.
Yes.
Halloweener. All right, so we are going to roll it here with Nightbot. We are giving away
Go and watch Freaky Fandoms.
Go watch
listen
Freaky
to
Fandoms.
it. Sorry.
Yeah, they support us. They're supporting us. You support them. That supports us. I don't know that logic actually sells it. Anyway, go support them because they are our friends and they are freaky and they need your fandom. So
they do.
There you go. We are giving away a skull and along with the skull, a Lulu patch. So we are going to ask Nightbot now.
Our final winner is
McDDR.
McDDR.
I feel like that name.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
McDDR wins something recently. All right. Well, anyway, congratulations, McDDR. You have won your very own Memento Mori palm skull. You can just hold it right in the palm of your hand and ponder life's mysteries. And also a Lulu patch, which you can, as I've done, you can stick it on your shirt. And people will know that you're a part of the cult of Lulu. So, McDDR, please send an email to mysterious@americanmcgee.com. Include your mailing address, your phone number. We'll have your email address, but just make sure to mention that you won the skull. And as always, do all that in a format that does not make life difficult for me.
Please do.
Please. One more reminder that there is the special whatsy going on over there at Patreon, and also that joining Patreon, even for $1 a month, helps us get closer to launching those patches. So if you want the patches and you want them faster, that is one way to make that happen.
Please sign up just for $1.
Exactly. Again, Pirate Jam, we are taking applications for Pirate Jam 2019. So if you are a game developer or even an aspiring game developer who's out there who might be interested in joining us in Thailand, you don't have to have super high level skills. If you can open up Unity and make like a very basic, because this year round we're going to do small games done fast. So you're not going to have to do a really complicated game if you can just do cute little, couple of hours to build something in Unity. Do that. Go over and sign up for Pirate Jam.
Please do.
Yep. And Out of the Woods, that's a thing.
That's
you
a
can
thing.
Go do some things on Out of the Woods. Again, Freaky Fandoms, that's a thing.
We're just going through all the tabs now, saying these are things.
It works. All right, guys. That is it.
We
our
made
Halloween special broadcast. Thank you so much, and thanks again to Roger Jackson for joining us today. I will try to throw some links to his current projects down in the description below, and I think that's it. So we hope all of you have a very wonderful Halloween evening out there, trickering and treatering.
Stay safe out there.
Watch out for razor blades in your candy.
Please.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
See you later.